are you considering the Nikon Z 400 f4.5 and how it can help you take stunning wildlife photos? Then you've definitely come to the right place. Welcome back, my friends. Make yourself comfortable and we'll take a look. Now let's begin with the size and the weight and the build quality. You know, the first thing that you notice about this lens when you unpack it. Well, it's not too big. I don't know. It's maybe like 25-ish centimeters. And then, of course, if you pull the lens collar, put it on, then it becomes a bit longer. Of course, it's not a combination that is as light as a crop factor camera or micro four thirds camera, but given the reach and that you're having a professional full frame body, it's a really sweet combination. It allows you to carry around for hours using it handheld without feeling the fatigue that you would do with a heavier lens. Now let's take a closer look at the build quality. I think it seems professional and I have no issues with it other than like the two things that I not really pleased about. And the first one is the lens hood is I think I accidentally squeezed it a bit in my backpack, so it has been like really difficult to take on and off ever since. And I know that's my fault, but I struggle with this a lot. And there's this kind of locking mechanism. Oh, this was very easy. Just before I struggled with it for a couple of minutes. Now the other thing is actually the tripod mount, and I don't know why. First of all, they made it detachable. I've never wanted to detach a tripod mount. Have you? Anyway, also it's kind of short, so I'm not so tall. I'm 170-ish, maybe a little less. But you know, I can fit 3 fingers. Normally I want to carry it like this with all 4 fingers. So it's a little short. And the other thing is also it's not Swiss Arca compatible. So you have to mount a plate like this to use it with gimbals and with video heads. And I think it's just a bit, you know, it's a bit cumbersome or it's a bit annoying actually, because then if it's dark and you haven't mounted it before you arrive, then you mount it backwards, or at times you have to like make sure that it's really tightened, and it's such an easy thing for Nikon to fix. Now, I do like the button placements. So you have a function button 1 and a function button 2, and actually the function button 2 are like you have 3 of them. And then you have a memory set button. So the way this works is that when you've logged onto a particular distance that you think the subject would appear at, then you press this one, memory set, and then you can set one of the function buttons to like focus recall, I think it's called. So it immediately jumps to that distance, focus distance. So this works really sweet. You also have a very smooth manual focus ring. Now a 400mm is a very versatile length. It's long enough or close enough for you to get like frame filling animals. But with wild deers, I could use that extra reach like a 600mm would give me. And also with some waterbirds, they're not so huge, or quite tiny, like duck size. Swim out in the middle of a lake, it's not really good for that. But for instance, when I had this one in the deer park, it was perfect. And also with camouflage in a hide, and it's still easy to track and find the animals through the viewfinder with this kind of focal length, it gets a little more difficult when you get to 600 millimeters or above. So that's really something I like with this one. I tried it with 1.4 teleconverter, and this makes the aperture jump from 4.5 to a 6.3. So you lose some light, and also you lose a bit of sharpness. And I really think I tested it like on 4-5 occasions, and I didn't really like the results, to be honest. Previously had a Tamron 150 to 600 millimeter, and at 600 millimeter it was 6.3, just like this would be at, I think it's 560 ish you get up to with a teleconverter. And the thing is, I feel that you lose a lot of light, so you have to like shoot later, or you can't really use it in the forest because your starting point is ISO 2000 if you want like a shutter speed of 1/600. So I think you lose some of the versatility, and you use the wide aperture that is one of the things I really love about this lens, because at the price point, then a 4.5, it's at this focal length, I think it's really good price. But more on that later. So I think if you should invest in this lens, make sure that it fits the kind of subjects that you're going for. If you know that you'll always have to crop in, then look for other options. I know they get really more expensive, but when you do get close enough, this lens is simply amazing. I mean, it's sharp, and it's sharp wide open. It's a little bit sharper at f5.6 or f5, but than it is at 4.5. But still plenty of sharpness, wide open. And that's really something I appreciate, because you get the lens for the wide aperture. And if you have to stop down to get sharper images, then it's really a bummer, I think. So you might want to change. If you get this lens, you need to make sure that you can get close enough. And this means that you actually might have to change the way that you capture your shots, if this is like the main lens you'll have. I don't have a lot of lenses, but I chose this one. So I'm changing my way of shooting to adapt it to this lens. For the time being, this means that I'll use this one at deer parks, I'll use it from a height, I'll get more into how I can improve my techniques, or using camouflage so I can get closer to the deers, and I'll use a floating height. So all of these things will make this one perform so much better, or give me better results using this lens. So I think sometimes we have this mindset that it's about the gear, and to a certain extent it is. In wildlife photography, gear is really important, no doubt about it. And you say it's about the photographer and not about the gear, but given the gear we have, then of course the photographer becomes important in how he or she uses this gear. And this is what I'm working on, because that's something I can change. I can't afford a 600 millimeter right now. Temporary issue, I hope, but it's really insanely expensive. So change your habits and make it fit this lens if you can't afford even more expensive gear. Anyway, just some examples. For frame filling fallow deer shots, I've been at like 20-30 meters. So you need to find out if you can get that close. And for waterfowl, it's likely about 8 to 10 meters. And that's what I've really been struggling with, getting that close to waterfowls. Now the focus is really amazing. It's fast, and it's accurate, and it's smooth. It's silent. So this means that you don't disturb wildlife with this all the time. Some sounds from from the lens trying to focus. And also you can use it for video if that's something you intend to do. So I really love the smoothness of the focus and the fastness. And I don't really think I've experienced a lot of like hunting for focus. Of course, this also depends on the camera you're using, but I think it works really well with the C8. If you combine it with a C9, then you get 6 stops of vibration reduction you can get with the C9. I think it's 5.5 just this lens alone, so you can get a little extra advantage. Now the image quality is really great. Of course you can get more expensive and lenses with better sharpness, but for the price I think it's really, really great. And it's all about, if you struggle with getting enough sharpness out of this lens, it's simply because, so to say, I think you're not close enough. And so this comes back to, it's not the gear, it's the photographer. Like I've previously made a review of the Tamron 150 to 600 millimeters Generation 2, which wasn't sharp enough until f8. And this is sharper at 4.5. So you can see you get a whole lot of extra light with a lens like this. So it's definitely a step up. Think compared to the Nikon, is it 180 to 600 millimeter? I haven't tried that lens, but I think they should be fairly similar in sharpness, maybe a slight edge to the 400 millimeter, if 4.5. It's definitely, I would say it's a step up for these compared to these two lenses, because you get more light, and this means that you can shoot earlier or later. And that's really valuable. That's when the light is great. Let's take a look at the price. It's not cheap. It's, I think, $3,500-ish. That's not a lot of money, so it's definitely not a budget lens. But wildlife photography is expensive. I would say it's definitely worth it as an upgrade from a budget lens. Or if you want to cover that focal length, if you have like a 600 millimeter already and you want a little shorter focal length, or if you have a 200 millimeter, then this is a good choice for that focal length. The price and the specs of this is really a sweet spot in the Nikon Z series lineup, because if you want a 600 millimeter f6.3, then there's also quite a huge price difference. And if you want the same aperture, then you're really beyond the limits of most photographers, because that's the most expensive lens you get. How pricey are they? I just had to look it up. So you have this 400 millimeter at 4.5. It's around $3,500. Then the next step up is $5,200 for a 600 millimeter f6.3, and you don't get as much light then. So if you take it a step further up, you can get a 400 millimeter just like this one, but with a f2.8, and then it's a whooping $13,700, and that's with a discount of $1,000. So it's more closer to like $15,000. So you can see it's really huge steps going from this and to the next lenses. And like the holy grail of wildlife photography, 600 millimeter f4 with a built-in teleconverter, it's amazingly priced at $16,200. Even with a $1,500 discount, I'm still not buying. I think I would have to sell my car, which I just got. So that's not happening right now. Anyway, so what talks in favor of this lens? It's lightweight, it's sharp, it has excellent vibration reduction, it has amazing autofocus. If you need to put on a teleconverter, 1.4 times teleconverter all the time, I would think twice about getting this lens. Instead, I would go with the 180 to 600 millimeter and save a little bit of money for when you eventually can take a step further and buy maybe a 600 millimeter. Alternatively, You can also use a Nikon F-mount lens like the 500 5.6 with a F2C not teleconverter, with a F2C converter. It'll give you a little longer reach and still more light than if you use a teleconverter on it. And that's also a great lens. I think they actually struck a really good balance between reach, sharpness, price point, and portability with this lens. Anyway, I'm happy with this lens, knowing that I have to adjust my wildlife photography just a little bit to get the most out of it. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. I've also made a video about using this lens for bird photography, and you can see a whole lot of examples in this one, and I'll link to it just above here. So see you in the next video. Take care.